Imagine a golden chest, not just old and not just valuable, but something that seems to glow as if it doesn't fully belong to the earth at all. This is a relic said to carry the very words of God, so sacred and so dangerous that entire armies feared it. Wherever it traveled, rivers were said to move, walls were said to fall, and people who treated it like an ordinary object quickly discovered that it was anything but. This is the Ark of the Covenant, the holiest artifact in biblical history, believed to be a bridge between heaven and earth. And the question that has haunted believers, historians, and skeptics for centuries is a simple one. Where is it now? Was it lost to time, destroyed in war, or melted down for its gold? Or is it still hidden somewhere, sealed behind stone walls and protected by ritual, silence, and fear, in a place no camera has ever been allowed to see? To understand why this object still grips our imagination, we have to return more than 3,000 years into the past, to the slopes of Mount Sinai. The Israelites have just escaped Egypt. They're free, but they are not safe. They wander the desert under the leadership of Moses, living between moments of miracle and moments of misery, balancing hunger, fear, and faith with every step. According to the biblical account, it's here that God speaks to Moses amid thunder, smoke, and fire, and gives him detailed instructions for something extraordinary. Not a weapon, not a crown, and not a statue, but a chest. Simple in form, but sacred in meaning. The ark is built from acacia wood, a tough desert timber chosen to survive harsh conditions, and it is overlaid with pure gold, inside and out. This wasn't for decoration, but because it was meant to house something sacred beyond ordinary value. It's designed to be portable, roughly 4 feet long and just over 2 feet wide and high, small enough to be carried, yet imposing enough to inspire fear. On its lid sit 2 golden cherubim, their wings stretched outward toward one another, forming what is described as a mercy seat or throne, not for an idol or an image, but for an invisible presence, a space where the divine is believed to dwell. Inside the ark are not riches in the usual sense, but symbols of a covenant and divine authority. There are the stone tablets bearing the 10 Commandments, a jar of manna to remember God's provision in the desert, and Aaron's rod that budded, representing leadership chosen by God rather than by popularity. This was never treated as just a container. It was the physical heart of the covenant, the visible symbol of an invisible promise. The ark was carried by priests using long poles, never touched directly, because holiness was not something to be handled casually. And wherever it went, the stories say, reality itself seemed to bend around it. When the Israelites reached the Jordan River, trapped with water ahead and danger behind, the ark was carried forward. According to the account, the water stopped flowing, piling up to allow the people to cross on dry ground. Later, at the city of Jericho, the ark was carried at the center of a ritual procession. Priests marched, trumpets sounded, and after 7 days the city walls collapsed without any siege engines or weapons. Again and again, the message was the same. This object did not follow the laws of nature. Nature followed it. Over time, the ark became not just sacred but feared. Enemies panicked at the sight of it, and those who treated it without reverence were said to suffer severe consequences. One of the most unsettling stories is that of Uzzah, who instinctively reached out to steady the ark when it appeared to slip during transport. He was struck dead not because he was malicious, but because the ark was never meant to be handled like a piece of furniture. The tone surrounding it was always the same: reverence or ruin. For generations, the ark rested in the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary that moved with the people. Eventually, King David brought it to Jerusalem amid celebration, music, and dancing, as though the spiritual center of the nation had finally returned home. His son, Solomon, later built the magnificent First Temple, a permanent structure of worship, and placed the ark inside the Holy of Holies. This was an inner chamber so sacred that only the high priest could enter, and only once a year. There, the ark remained, hidden and silent, at the very center of the spiritual world. And then, history intervened. In 587 BC, Babylonian forces led by King Nebuchadnezzar sacked Jerusalem. The city was destroyed, the temple was looted, and its treasures were carried away. You would expect a clear account of what happened to the ark, whether it was seized, destroyed, or paraded as a trophy of war. But the biblical record does not say. There is no description of its capture, no confirmation of its destruction. The Ark of the Covenant simply disappears from the narrative. That silence is what created the obsession. If it wasn't taken, then perhaps it was hidden. Some traditions suggest that priests concealed it in secret chambers beneath the Temple Mount. Others believe it was moved to caves in the desert. Still others argue it was destroyed and quietly erased from the story for that reason. But one tradition refuses to let the Ark fade into uncertainty, and that tradition comes from Ethiopia. According to the Kebra-Nagast, or the Glory of Kings, a medieval Ethiopian text that blends history, legend, and faith, the Ark's journey did not end in Jerusalem. The text tells of the Queen of Sheba, known in Ethiopia as Makeda, who traveled from her kingdom to meet King Solomon after hearing of his great wisdom. Their meeting is described as one of intellect, admiration, and political significance. But the story takes a fascinating turn. The Kebra Nagas claims that Solomon tricked Makeda into breaking an oath, which led to the conception of a son, Menelik. Years later, Menelik travels to Jerusalem to meet his father, who recognizes him and sends him back to Ethiopia accompanied by nobles and priests. According to the tradition, a priestess son named Azariah has a divine vision and comes to believe the Ark must leave Jerusalem for its own protection. A replica is secretly made, the real Ark is stolen, and it is carried out of Israel and into Ethiopia. The story says that Menelik only learns the truth during the journey but accepts it as divine will. As before, miracles are said to follow, with rivers parting and the Ark moving as though it chooses its own destination. Today, the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition holds that the Ark rests in the city of Axum, inside a small chapel near the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. For believers, this is not speculation. It is a living truth. Every single Ethiopian church contains a tablet, a sacred replica representing the Ark. Because for them, the Ark is not a lost artifact but a present reality. And yet, no one is allowed to see it. Only one guardian monk is permitted to enter the chapel, chosen for life, bound to the site until his death. No visitors are allowed inside. No photographs exist. Not even emperors were ever granted access. The reason given has never changed. Its power is too great, and to approach it improperly would be dangerous. Skeptics, of course, dismiss this story, pointing to the lack of hard evidence, the long history of invasions and upheaval in the region, and the impossibility of ever verifying the claim. But believers respond with something they see as stronger than proof: faith. They don't treat the Ark as an object to be examined, but as a covenant to be respected. So the question remains, is the Ark of the Covenant truly there in Axum, a real object guarded in silence? Or is it a powerful myth, strong enough to hold an entire nation together and give it a sacred identity? Stretching deep into antiquity, the Ark remains one of the greatest mysteries ever told, and perhaps that is the point. Because the moment it is photographed, cataloged, and placed behind glass, it stops being what it was always meant to be. Not just a relic, but a bridge between heaven and earth. So I'll leave you with the question that keeps this incredible legend alive. What do you believe? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into history and mystery, be sure to subscribe for more.